Okay, so good morning everyone. Welcome to anyone watching on YouTube. Hopefully you've been enjoying the series and learning a lot and practicing, because this takes practice, it doesn't come instantly.
Absolutely.
We will, yeah, absolutely. So we're on page 32, and if you remember the last thing we said that we were doing, we were in Shacharit proper now, moved away from Psuke de Zimra, where we have the 5-3-1 motif, leitmotif, where we have Asher Natan Asef Bivin Alachim Ben Yom Uvein Laila. And now we're in the Shacharit proper section, where our motif is Ahava Raba. So we're thinking Hava Nagila. Yam bam 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 Hava Nagila. That flat second, natural third. So, for example, Yishtabach Shimcha Lad Malkeinu Baruch Atah Adonai Yotzer HaMeorot. So now we're on page 32, one of our last examples of this for the moment. And we're looking at the bottom of the page, 3 lines up from the bottom. And our motif, we put into action our motif there. So, וקירבתנו לשמך הגדול סלע באמת להודות לך ולייחדך באהבה ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה. Right, so let's do that last line together. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בעמו ישראל. So now we have 2 choices. We have the choice of staying in the Nusach for the Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Or we can do what's called a musical detour in Nusach English language parlance, where we actually go into the major for Shema Yisrael, so that we can do it's Lewandowski or Zolzer, I can't remember which one it is, the famous composition, Shema Yisrael Adonai. And the way we do that is we simply, remember we said we always anticipate musically. Jewish music is great at anticipating, telling us what's coming next. So if you're going to switch modes to a major composition, we want to do that in that previous line. So, Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael be'ahava. And then we're all set for Shema in the major. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Good, so I see some incredulity. Maybe we didn't quite catch that. Was there a question? No? Okay.
No. I find it, for lack of a better word, humorous.
Yeah.
When we do that last line to prepare us for the Shema Yisrael.
So you have to decide how you're going to do the Shema before you do that last.
That's right. You have to just,
That's right.
yeah. Just in case you guys couldn't hear that, Eric was saying you have to decide in advance that you're going to do the Shema in major mode, so that you can then prepare it in the line before, right? And
You can't mix them up.
you think it's funny that we have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not musically inclined, so when you're saying this here, I find it humorous that we are musically intelligent enough to prepare ourselves to go into the next line
Without having to prepare in advance.
Right.
Right. Okay. So, So, point well taken. Do we really have to prepare in advance when we're quite capable of just switching melodies on the fly? Yes, and we have to switch melodies on the fly anyway. Actually, making it even harder for ourselves in the middle of the line, right? It's not the tradition. Tradition is to anticipate. So yes, I mean,
and if you're a professional.
Yeah.
That's got to be easier for you because there's so many other things that you have to remember. So preparing yourself beforehand with the line before you're going into a major key makes total sense. But I just find that it's sort of humorous.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean, you say why bother, right? No, it's all right. That's tradition. There is something to be said for.
my sense of humor.
Well, you can find it in the next paragraph. I don't know. Okay, so we've done our Shema. We've had a choice of either Nusach, Ahava Raba, or the major composition Shema Yisrael. And then the next musical detour of our Shacharit service is the Ve'ahavta paragraph. So the Baruch Shem Kivod, what's the Nusach that's done for that line? Do you remember what we said? Yes, exactly. There's no Nusach, it's silent. Little trick question there. Okay, so Ve'ahavta, we're given this. Sorry. We're given this.
You passed, though, so very good.
You did, you passed. You have these beautiful sets of dots and lines and squiggles and all that kind of stuff over and under the words. These. Torah. So this is Torah trope, and the Torah trope is yet another musical system which we're not going to get into in this course, but we have those and we can choose to do that. Etc. We have that.
And you have to follow those tropes.
I mean,
Can you vary it? That's what I'm asking.
you can, and there's. So what I'll
Or
say
you
is there's
follow
a
the tradition.
tradition of so there's a concept called minhag hamakom,
Yeah.
which means following the traditions of the place that you're in. And I know of at least one Canadian synagogue, it's a very Canadian thing, where they will go, "Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha." It's what they teach the kids in Canadian Hebrew schools. And so, yeah. In fact, we have one of our daveners who likes to use that melody and sometimes gets overtaken by the trope. That's correct. So, good. So that's the trope, and then we finished that paragraph in trope. But that concept was to bring to light the concept of a musical detour. So we're doing something different. When we finish the Shema, page 34, we're back to the Nusach, right? So. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Yeah, and the next paragraph ends with Ledor Vador Hu Kayam. Join me. Ledor Vador Hu Kayam, Ushmo Kayam, V'chison Avon Malchuto, Ve'unato La'ad Kayamet. Yeah, and of course, good job for following along, because there's a zillion ways you can do that musically and still be in the Nusach. And everyone can do it their own way on the bima, and you might hear different ways, but that is how one would do that. One way to do that. We pick up at the bottom of page 34, 1, 2, 3 lines up from the bottom, 2 words in. You can start at Emet where the box is, but I usually start at Malkeinu. Malkeinu melech avotenu, join me, 3 lines up. Go aleinu, go el avotenu, yotzerenu to Yeshuatenu. Potenu matzilenu me'olam shemecha, Elohim zulatecha. By the way, there's a concept in, it's not a concept, it's a technique, a tool for the toolbox in prayer that's called, what is it called? It's called, good job. Anyway, it'll come back to me in a moment.
A wrench.
It's yeah, there's a wrench in the words. It's a technique where you chant the words very quickly. Just there's a sense of getting through that.
Recitative.
Not recitative. Recitative is florid recitation usually. Well, I mean it's chant. It's not necessarily metered. Is the point. Okay? But what I'm getting at is this. It's called. Oh, embarrassing. Sorry, everyone.
Hey, you're talking to old people.
Let me come back to it.
We do this all the time.
Actually, you know what? It may be related. Recitation chant.
It's very simple.
Recitation. It may be recitation chant, something like that, where we'll say the words very quickly. 2 purposes: either to get through the text quickly, or to set up a very forward-moving spiritual plane, not just a logistical one. So we might have Malkeinu melech avotenu v'aleinu avotenu yotzerenu tzuyishoatenu podenu matzilenu me'am shemecha. So you can do that kind of thing. It's part of, it doesn't have to be as metered as all that. So I just wanted to bring that up. Good, we're on page 35. I think it's recitation tone.
So, Hassan, when the rabbi signals to you on the bima and says, it's like this here, that's basically what you're doing.
Yes, although, so
Or even if you're aware of it.
Correct, and you'll always watch me. You see me looking at my watch. I'm very
I don't
sort
mean
of
this
focused on
About
that,
what?
especially on high holidays.
Yeah,
What,
I don't
about
mean this
because you change
facetiously.
it during the times?
Yeah, so I mean, yes, that is one technique in your toolbox to move things forward. Exactly. Skipping pages is a good way to do that too.
You never,
I did that.
You never do that.
Oh, I did that on an audition once.
Really?
Didn't get the job. Okay, so I'm on page 35. We're on Michamocha, the bold text. Michamocha ba'ivim Adonai, Mikamocha neda b'kodesh, Nora teilot osei fele. Okay, so a couple of things here, grammatical and, both of them grammatical. So this line comes from, do you recognize where this line comes from? We discussed it last week. The Song of the Sea, right? Shirat Hayam, where we said it's written in brick-like format, and because the first word is at the beginning of a brick, it's mi chamocha, because the mi kamocha is in the middle brick, so it's not the beginning of a sentence, but the middle of a sentence. It's mi kamocha, and also just to bring light to the mitagim in the last two words, or the last compound word really, where it's osei fele, not osei fele. Okay, it's a common mistake. Nora tehilot osei fele. Right? Oh, safe. Let's just practice that. Nora tehilot osei fele. So the trick in delaying that say, so that it's not on the downbeat, as it were. Osei we don't want. We want osei. So the trick to do that is to extend the previous word one more thing. So you're not going oh. So there's no snakes in there. We don't want osei, right? So it's osei. Two notes on o. Osei fele. That's
What
it.
is the, I guess it's a print, is it two dots under the yud, under the ayin?
Nope, that's a vertical line.
What does that mean?
It's a metag, and that shows you where the accent of the word is when it's not on the last syllable of the word. So in Hebrew, the rule of thumb is that we have the accent is generally on the last syllable, right? Lehitra ot. Shalom, right? In English, it's different, right? We say happy birthday, usually the second to last syllable in English, right? More often than not. Right, kind of like that. Kind of like I'm talking. So in Hebrew, when the accent isn't on the last syllable, like Yishtabach, or well, any of the words that end in echa, really, which means your, we add a meteg on that second to last syllable to show that it's not on the last syllable. It's not mishpatecha, right? It's mishpatecha. For example, in what is it, Kabbalah Shabbat, we have the word lishuatecha, followed quickly by lishuatecha, right? So there was a meteg under the te of techa, of lishuatecha, and no meteg at all in lishuatecha because the accent is on the last syllable, and there's no et anyways to accent. It's a shva. Okay, good. So we're on page 35. We just did the osei fele, and we continue with Shira chadasha shivachu giolim l'shimcha asefat hayam yachad kulam otu vehimlichu ve'yameru. See that? Vehimlichu. Not vehimlichu, but vehimlichu. And we go on. Adonai yimloch leolam ba'em. Stay in the same nusach. Don't switch to Shabbat mode, right? Don't go to Yisrael Kuma Bezrat. That's Shabbat. We don't do that though. Nobody does that. So that's great. So we have Sur Yisrael Kuma Bezrat Yisrael Ufdei Chinumecha Yehuda beYisrael Go Aleinu Adonai Tzevaot Shemo Kedosh Yisrael Baruch Atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Yes, good. So there's a perfect example of where we step outside of the base scale of the Ahava Raba mode, which remember is 1, 2, 3, 1, flat 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, we can dip down that as well, right? We can go backwards. 1, 7, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 7, 6. So here we did that very thing. Where do we go? Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch Atah Adonai. Right? So we're playing with the bottom end of the tetrachord, the bottom 4 notes of the scale, and we dip below it another 2 notes. And that's totally fine. It gives it variation, interesting music, and so forth. Good. So now,
if we were in the key of C, like the 2 flat, it would be like C, D flat.
exactly. C, D flat, E natural. Exactly. Good. So we're on page 36, and we're now in section 3 of our Nusach sheet. So take a look at this repetition of the Amida. Obviously, the silent Amida doesn't have a Nusach. And what we're looking at here is the pentatonic scale. The pentatonic scale can be represented easily visually, and if you can hear it, I'll demonstrate as well. Just the black notes of the keyboard, and those are spaced in such a way that they skip notes. So the whole scale from top to bottom, if you cover the range of sounds, is only 5 notes, which is why it's called pentatonic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So da 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 da. Do you ever see that on the piano?
Yeah, I used to play that.
So, right. So that is a pentatonic scale. Okay. So now the pentatonic scale is infinite, just like all the other scales, and in fact probably lends itself more so to playing above and below the sandbox of the bass scale. So bum 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 bum. Right? You can play that whole thing. So for example, I'm on page, let's do 36b. So Baruch Atah Adonai dum bum 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 Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor Ha'nora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim Vekonei Hakol V'zocher Chastei Avot U'mevii Goel Livnei B'neihem Leman Shemo Be'ahava. So right, you can do all those games. Now, just to illustrate how flexible this is, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor Ha'nora El Elyon. If you wanted to, Gomel Chasadim Tovim Ve'konei Hakol V'zocher Chastei Avot. Right, you can play with it the whole way up and down the scale. Now, it just so happens that because of the idea of a heicha kedusha, a harit kedusha, this sort of not really half, but when we start the Amida together out loud, particularly in the conservative movement, where there's a tradition of the whole congregation singing that all together, that has become standard and well known among congregations, and everyone sings it roughly the same way together, all in the correct nusach. The conservative movement has been very good about that, right? Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov, like you all did. You're all familiar with it because it's done as a matter of community. So that's really great, and that's
not on Shabbat Mincha, but not Shabbat morning.
Well, so there's different ways of doing it at different times. You either say the whole thing together, and then the cantor goes back, and everyone else goes on. The Nusach, well, so the Nusach of Shabbat afternoon is different, although the Amida uses the same Nusach. The repetition of the Amida uses the same Nusach until at the end of the Kedusha, but that's a talk for another time. So that's good. So just to point out that when you have an infinite scale that doesn't have a clear starting and stopping point like the pentatonic scale, what is the leitmotif? How do we end our phrases? And there's 2 ways we end our phrases. So if you think of this as 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, because 1 and 8 are octaves apart, even though you've only hit 5 notes, right? So it's 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, right? You can do that. So the leitmotif, the way you end...
What does leitmotif mean?
The leading
motif. The leading musical... the leading musical phrase that keeps coming back, typically at a cadence, like the end of a phrase. So, like we have here, just let's take an example and I'll illustrate what these are. Mechayeh hametim, which is 4, 2, 1. Mechayeh hametim. Or you can have 1, 6, 5. So, for example, V'ne'eman ata lahachayot meitim, da, 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 right? So that's going to be 1, 6, 5. And you can play with those, and they can be endings or they can not be endings. For example, let's look at page 38. Let's pray for those who need recovery here for a moment. So I'm on the Rafa'inu paragraph, the last bold word on the page on 38. Rafa'inu Adonai b'nei Rafeh, Hoshi'enu v'nivasheya, ki tehilatenu ata. Meteg on the a. Ve'ha'alei refuah shalema lechol makotenu, bottom of the page. Ki el melech rofei ne'eman v'rachaman ata, baruch ata Adonai. Rofei chole amo Yisrael. So that's 4, 2, 1. 4, 4, 2, 1. Okay. So you can also go Baruch atah Adonai Rofei chole amo Yisrael. That's 1, 6, 5. Okay. So you have that choice. Those are the two patterns we have. So looking at, just going back one page to 37 to the Kedusha, this entire Kedusha you stay in the same mode. Okay, there's no fancy switches or anything like that, no anticipation. It's for regular weekday service. It's just all the way through. And I'm not talking about the different choreography, although there's tippy toes going on at the beginning of most of these phrases. There's bending, there's bowing left, right, center for Ze'el, Zevi, Amar, and so forth. But what we're talking about is the music carries right through. Yimloch Adonai le'olam haroech Tzion ledor hallelujah. Ledor vador nagid god lecha, join me. Ulenetzach netzachim kedushatecha nakdish. V'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush le'olam va'ed. Ki el melech gadol v'kadosh ata. Baruch ata Adonai Adel HaKadosh. Good. And that carries the whole way through. Let me just see if I can scan for any tricky things to think about. So obviously on page 39 we have to, again, prepare in advance. Yep.
You know the little paragraph on behalf of one who is, what do you call that?
The little paragraph.
It's not part of the service.
So it's part of the private recitation. If you have somebody that you'd like to pray on behalf of for recovery, you would add in that small text in your private.
Does it have to be in there, or you could say it anywhere?
Well, it's part of the paragraph that talks about healing us. Rafa'inu Adonai b'nei, heal us, God, and we will be healed.
Okay.
Okay. Hoshi'enu v'nivasheya, help. Hoshi'enu is save us.
The reason I'm asking is because I cheat. In the sense that I use an art scroll siddur. I know.
I do too sometimes.
I know certain individuals in the shul would.
We're video recording. We're video recording.
Are very upset with my behavior. Dr. Elton, you're not being very empathic. I hope that gets recorded. Anyway, getting back, I don't find it in the art scroll.
No.
I was wondering what that paragraph. So on. How come?
I would venture to say
there's a little note at the bottom of the page.
Sometimes in art scroll they like to put a star and then put the alternate stuff at the bottom of the page, or on the face page. It's there. It's there. It's very traditional text. Yeah. Art scroll. It's another publication. It's another Siddur publication. Orthodox Siddur. Okay. So yeah, it is there, and you don't say it out loud. It's a private meditation. That's why it's in small text. Good. So what I was about to say was on page 39, it's important that I think this is where anticipation and preparation help the professional or seasoned leader stay on top of his or her game when leading services, because on page 39, you'll have to be on the ball in terms of choosing the right option. It's like a choose your own adventure, except not, because it's, at certain times of the year you say Vatin Bracha on page 39, and other times of the year Vatin Talam Atali Bracha, right? So there's and it's just, it has to do with the time of the year where we either are looking for dew or we're not. It's interesting. There's questions about why there aren't other wording here, like why is it not V'tein bracha, V'tein geshem umatar livracha, or something like that. At the times of the year where we pray for geshem, rain, times where we pray for dew. There's some questions. In fact, there are some sidurim going back. If you look in the Cairo Geniza, you can find sidurim that do have very different alternatives there. But anyway, so you have to be ready for that. At this time of the year, we're in V'tein bracha mode. Please grant blessing, general blessing. You will hear me as I'm leading services in the Tekah B'Shofar Gadol paragraph. Not everyone has to do this. In fact, I mean, it's not a requirement, but as I have always said, word painting can bring out the meanings of the words even if we don't really understand them. What's the point of the shofar? Shofar, like we blew the shofar this morning. This was in the month of El. Yeah, to wake up. It's the season of repentance. We should be getting ready for, trying to find a clean slate and doing tshuva and all that sort of stuff. So here's the paragraph of a sound the great shofar to herald our freedom, right? So a different reason, but again, the shofar is used for a call to war. It's a call for freedom. It's a call, right? So when you do this paragraph of Tekah B'Shofar Gadol, when I do it like a shofar. Tekah B'Shofar Gadol, and then back into the Nusach. Well, I never left the Nusach, right? Those notes are within the pentatonic scale. Right? Tekah B'Shofar Gadol Lechenutenu. I worked with a rabbi who heard me do that the very first time I did that in shul, and he was like, "You're doing it wrong." I said, "That could be. I do a lot of stuff that's outside of the box sometimes." So, and he made a very valid point. He said it's tekah. It's not Truah B'Shofar Gadol. It's not like, or Shvarim actually, right? I was going to do Shvarim. Yom, bam, bam, that's Shvarim, right? He said it's tekah. So he said I should be going, Tekah B'Shofar Gadol Lechenutenu. It's actually not a bad point. But to be honest, that Shvarim is more recognizable out of context. Otherwise, it's just a help note. So, Rabbi, that's what that's all about. Good. Going on. Okay, good. So, just talking about
like variation, other variation.
Yep, other variation. One
in the singing to reflect the text.
Yes, page 39 at the very bottom.
That one I never.
Villa Malshinim.
I don't say it silently. I don't want to.
Well, I wouldn't say silently. So that paragraph, the Villa Malshinim paragraph, is about the heretics, right? And it's particularly negative. And it was also added later. This is the 19th of the Shmona Esrei of the 18 prayers, right?
Yeah.
This was added later by the rabbis, and in a time of persecution and not good times for the Jewish people, and so we actually today should say this a little bit under our breath. So whereas we might have gone, Baruch atah Adonai melech ha'evot tzedakah u'mishpat, maybe a little bit quicker, just get through it. We're kind of like.
I actually disagree. I think we're in a very bad situation these days. We should say it loud enough.
It's interesting. There's perspective on everything, right?
Yeah, well,
So,
I think that's just.
I agree. There are things that are not good about our world, right? We're under persecution still, and the Jewish people, I don't think, will ever come out from under that. But I don't know. I think that the times might be. We're not talking about, thank God, Holocaust times. We're not talking about pogroms. We're not talking about religious persecution in the Pale. We live in a free country. For the most part, we live in peace. So it's just a perspective, and I'm not saying it's part of the ancient tradition to say it quietly. It's not.
What is the purpose of the Shemona Esrei?
It is the prayer. It's called Hatfilah, and it is our opportunity to collectively, as a community, and individually when we say it privately, to ask for things. Okay, so it's a set collection of things that we ask for. Like top of page 39, please give us a year of plenty, right? Tekah B'Shofar Gadol, gather our people. Please gather our exiled people. We want to leave the diaspora and go back to Israel. V'la Malshinim, please frustrate our enemies. V'liyushalayim yircha, please rebuild Jerusalem. And you can tell all of these things. Where do you find them? Two places. The first word of every paragraph is your action word, your verb that you're asking for. And the last line of the bracha, what comes after Baruch Atah, is going to be the summary of what you're asking for, each of those lines. So, the Torah, this is where we ask things of God. There's a section where we're moving on, where we start, where we thank God. So that is, for example, bottom page 41, where we say, Modim anachnu lach. Modim from the same root as Todah, right? Todah Raba means thank you. So, Modim anachnu lach, and going through Ve'al Kulam on page 43, where we say, and for all these things, Barach we'll praise your name. And Sim Shalom, where we say, please grant us peace.
Can you talk about the Shema Kohen as the inclusive
That's still asking, it's not thanking, we said.
Well, we do three things in the Amida. We ask for things, we thank God, and we praise God. Okay, so we ask for things, like please rebuild Jerusalem. We praise God, where we say, let's see, the Gevurot, for example, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed. Your love sustains the living, your great mercies give life to the dead. You are the master of life and deliverance, and so forth. We're not asking for anything. We're just
We're thanking.
Or praising.
Or praising.
Right.
Okay.
Praised are you, Adonai, shield of Abraham, guardian of Sarah. Right.
And the thank you, praise, and thank you, praise, and the other one.
And petition. Yeah, asking. That's throughout the Amida.
Amida,
in sections,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Amida, just to clarify, Amida comes from the root word Amad or Omeid, which means to stand. So it's the standing prayer. And it's also known as the Shmona Esrei, which is the 18, the prayer of 18, even though there's 19. It's the central prayer. This is the moment where we talk to God. The Torah reading is where God talks to us. I like to say that, right?
It's interesting.
Last questions, and then we have to close up shop for the day, and we'll move on next week. Go ahead.
From the time I was a small kid, maybe 10, I always learned to sing Sim Shalom. I never knew it was part of the Amida.
Oh, okay.
No, seriously. I just learned it was some song we all sang as kids. We all were taught to sing.
Yeah.
But there's a third word, Sim Shalom Ba'olam.
Yeah.
But we don't sing that.
Okay, so
As a kid,
we do.
Sim Shalom, Tova, Ubracha. We never sang the
Some
Ba'olam.
people do.
So let me
Some
explain
people
that.
do.
So that's an addition in the conservative movement to recognize that we're not just asking for peace for ourselves, but for the whole world, and that will benefit us. Right? And so there's two traditions, and depending on which edition of the Sim Shalom, which year of publication that you're looking at, you either have Sim Shalom Ba'olam, please grant peace to the world, in the world, Tova, universal peace, Tova Uvracha, goodness and blessing, Chaim B'chesed, and all that sort of stuff. Or you can have Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha Ba'olam, in the earlier editions of the Siddur, which is it's just a rejigging of the wordsmithing, right? Sim Shalom, grant peace, Tova, goodness, Uvracha, and blessing in the world. It's the same thing.
That's what I call a liturgical tweak.
A liturgical tweak is a great word for it. So what that happens is when you have those songs and it doesn't appear, that's because the composer was composing most likely out of an Orthodox Siddur. So there's simply an honoring of the original composition. Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Chaim V'Chesed Rachamim. Or if you wanted to step up a little bit into the 1950s, right after the flourishing of the conservative Siddur. So we have Sim Shalom Ba'olam Tova Uvracha Chaim V'Chesed Rachamim. Or just to give you another example of that really quickly, Meir Finkelstein has written a number of Sim Shalom melodies that are used in Shabbat services, particularly. By the way, this is Shabbat stuff. This is not weekday, because you wouldn't do a tune like that on a weekday service. You'd have to stick with the Nusach. Sim Shalom Ba'olam Tova Uvracha Chaim V'Chesed Rachamim. Okay, so he wrote, Sim shalom tova uvracha chen v'chesed v'rachamim. So there's no vowel there. And that was one of the earlier ones. And one of the later ones is Sim shalom tova uvracha ba'olam chen v'chesed. So he does put it in other versions. And if you're singing a composition, you generally sing it the way the composer wrote it. So that's why sometimes it appears and sometimes it doesn't.
It's so important that people to know we are supposed to insert our personal prayers. And that's something that we're not taught very much, and I don't think many people do.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
It's so much more meaningful. If there should be a prayer when you lose a parent, or when you're saying Kaddish for somebody. And
like a little Yisker in each
consulted, and I spoke to rabbis and came up with a wording, and the best place in the Shema Kolenu, you put whatever doesn't fit somewhere else that you want to
Right,
add.
Shema Kolenu means hear our prayer. So make it our prayer. That's beautiful, Joel. And that is the difference between keva and kavana. Keva, like kavua, is like a fixed place, a fixedness, right? And kavana is intention. So if we can bring kavana, and we all know the word kavana, we hear it, kavana, right? It means what? It means... There's every single word for it, right? That everyone's going,
It's intention, it's
Intention.
focus, it's mindfulness.
Mindfulness.
It overlaps with
Absolutely.
mindfulness and temporary.
Very good. So those words are fantastic to describe kavana. Keva is the fixed. So the Amida and any prayer is actually, it should be a combination of keva and kavana. Right? It should be a combination. So do insert your words. Do stop on, not while you're leading services, but if you're davening on your own, do dwell on a paragraph. Let its words, wash over you. Let it affect you. It's useless, maybe not useless, because there's something to be said for keva and going through the motions. But if we can be affected and have our mind deep in prayer, and that means going off book, great. Just don't go off Nusach, and that's the end of the lecture.